Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. If you can hear me, kindly type in the hi button. Type in hi in the comment section, please. MSVWN, good morning to you too. How are you today? Hi, Natalie. Bana, hello. Can you hear me? Professor Volts, can you hear me? If you can hear me, please say hi, please. Great, Professor Volts. Thanks so much for the confirmation. I appreciate. Hey, Carrie, good morning. Well, I'm fine, thank you, MSVN. I'm good. Brother Ed, good morning to you too. Well, I'm so excited to be with you guys today as I'm looking forward to a very prosperous new week. Good morning, Carrie. Yes. So let's dive into the chat and let's see what's going on the market at the moment. Um, Well, I first of all, I have a couple of trades which I took, and I think I'm profitable in some. For instance, I am in the USDJPY presently, and we are in profit already at this point. And if you are not yet in on this one, this might be an opportunity for us to take advantage of that short-term bearish momentum we foresee at this point. How did we arrive at this decision? Let's go on to the 4 hours time frame to see what's happening on the 4 hours time frame. Well, on the 4 hours time frame, the first thing we observe here is that price has been finding lower lows and lower highs at this point. And this can be confirmed with the visual representation of a bearish trend line that you will see on your chart as a red line. Here, as you can see, price has continued to find we've continued to see lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, another lower low at this point. Then we see that price has not been able to actually touch that bearish trend line at this point, giving us a sign that the bears are really very strong at the junction of this market. So because of this now, what I did at this point was to identify a key level at 127.570 area. If we look left, we can see that this area has been holding price at one point in time as a support level or a resistant level. If we look close into what happened on the 20th of April, it was a support level there. We saw a quick rejection of that level. We saw a rejection. We saw a retest here before that breakout happened. Then we saw a quick retest at this point, then a breakdown at this point, which gives me a clue into the significance of that level at this point. So because of that level now, we want to be looking for opportunities right below that level since we saw that breakdown during the course of last week trading session at this point. We saw that breakdown here. Now, if we scale down to a lower time frame in the form of the 1 hour time frame, what we can see here is something that looks like this. And if we look closely and zoom into what has been happening since on the later part of last week trading session, we will notice that following this impulse leg here, we saw multiple rejection of 128.250 area. giving us a clue into the strength of the sellers at this point. So with 128.250 area, we have a supply zone around this area, which also has something that looks more like a reversal pattern at this point. Looking, we see we have something like this, which is like a supply zone at this point, and then the key level becoming the neckline of the reversal pattern we identified around here. You can see we have a reversal pattern around here, and then we saw the breakdown of that reversal pattern during the later part of last week trading session. And as soon as we resumed this morning, we saw price do a retest back into structure, and then we saw price breakdown of that key level at this point. So we want to be looking for opportunities to take advantage to take advantage downwards. So what I'm doing at this point, I placed the pending order at 127.576 and 127.507, which has already been triggered at this point. And I still think we are still close to the entry zone, and we still can take advantage of this trade if you are not yet in that trade. So we have a take profit target of 130 pips at allow me to project this impulse leg into the future, and if we do just that, we will be having something like this. So to be more specific, we use our Fibonacci extension tool and run it through that last impulse leg. Then we have something like this. So with a target at between 127.2 and 141.4% extension, I'm looking at let's look at 126.4 as our profit target at this point, and that's approximately 115 pips thereabout, and with a stop loss right above that key level with 38 pips stop loss here. So this is my view on the USDJPY. Bonjour, les diamants. So this is my expectation on USDJPY for the week. Afterwards, let's see, we'll look at what happens, then we decide if we are still going to go further bearish to the downside. So that is that on the USDJPY. So if we move on, if you allow me to move on, we have I think a scenario on CHFJPY2 where I took a buy opportunity on CHFJPY and it's already in profit already. I'm halfway into my take profit target at the moment. However, there's still a chance for us to take another advantage if we see a retracement into structure, probably around here, or back down into the key level, where we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the upside. So if you would allow me, let us label this first, and then we shall look at this together if we can identify another opportunity that we can take advantage of. 131.300. So we have a key level right at 131.300. Give me a moment. So with the key level at 131.300, let's move down to 15 minutes time frame to see what we can play around with on the 15 minutes time frame. So the first thing first we'll notice here is that after this impulse move from this double bottom structure here, we saw a retracement into this area before that impulse leg happened. Now that the impulse leg has happened, what happened before the impulse leg? We saw a consolidation phase around this area before the breakout of structure, and that gives us a sign that hold on a second, please. So we have something like this here. We have a trend line, we have a structure that was broken around here, on the 15 minutes time frame. So going back, we have, if you see closely, we saw that we have a structure that was broken here. So there's still a likelihood that price might come back down into structure, after which we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the upside. So hold on a second. If we run our retracement tool, one thing about this area is this: we don't know if this impulse leg has ended at this point. I mean this one, this impulse leg, we don't know if it has ended. But the only way we can know if it is ended is that if we see a reversal structure right at the top here, we see a lower high, then we see a breakdown of that structure, then we want to be expecting that the retracement, the impulse leg has actually ended, after which we can run our retracement tool from this leg, from this area to wherever it peaks. Then we look for a golden zone area to take advantage of a bullish momentum. And I'm looking at around this area as another opportunity to take advantage of whatever bullish expectation we will be having on this pair. So this is what we have here, and inside we have it at the center. So now if price does not come back down into this buy opportunity zone, then we just pass this trade. We just pass it, we pass it and leave it. So that's that on CHFJPY. Another scenario we have here on the Euro CHF, which I took already, and though I'm in profit, but we see that price is coming back to our entry zone at this point, which welcomes another opportunity to add more position to this one. So for the Euro CHF, now let's look at this together on the Euro CHF. On the 1 hour time frame, hold on a second. Well, what we observed here on the 1 hour time frame is that we have a trend line, bullish trend line here that we want to work with going forward. And since we had a breakout of that key level at the early hours of today, then that's a signal that we might be going bullish on this one. So we already seen a breakout of structure, then we are looking forward to a retest of structure, after which we look for structure that supports a trend continuation to the upside. So with an entry point on at 1.03078, price is right back into my entry point at this point. And like I said, we should be looking for price to do a retest of this key level, which also shares a confluence with the bullish trend line, after which we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the upside. So this is my expectation on Euro CHF, and we have a take profit target at 1.04300, which is around 120 pips thereabouts. And the reason why that is, I actually looked at the retracement of this impulse leg, and we identified the golden zone area as our take profit target on this one. So if you run the retracement tool here, we will see that our golden zone falls within this area. So within this area is what we shall be looking forward to as our take profit targets at this point. So this is our expectation on Euro CHF. So now let's look at the UK oil and US oil at the same time. Remember we took a trade on UK oil during the course of last week trading session, and we're still profitable on this one. And we had our stop loss right below the structure here, that is around here, and price is yet to come into that take profit target, into that stop loss rather. So what I'll be advising at this point is that we should move our stop loss further up into the structure here, if we took advantage of that trade, we should move our stop loss to this area. So that means we are holding about about 400 pips should price go against us. And remember, we are right back at our supply zone that we identified on the weekly time frame. If you allow me, let's go back to the weekly time frame and see what's happening. So this is the weekly time frame, and oh, I think it's the daily. Let's use the daily to have a clearer picture of what we're talking about. So this is what we have here on the weekly time frame. Prices back at the supply zone, and because of the bullish expectation on the UK oil, we are expecting that price will break above that supply zone, and afterward we see a retest into that supply zone. Then we can actually add more positions to this trade to the upside. However, if you already took the opportunity during the course of last week's trading session, I hope you're still holding the trade. And if you are, then we should be moving stop loss to around 112.20 or 112 dollars approximately. Then we see what happens afterwards. So what I'll be looking forward to is that for those who are here to take advantage of this trade, then we need to hold on and let's see how price action reacts at this point. Considering the fact that we are in a supply zone, it's very, very likely that we see a retracement into somewhere around here. And the reason why that is probably is because of this impulse leg. And we understand that after every impulse move, there is always a retracement phase. Now, we don't know when this retracement phase will end, but we can as well look out for reversal patterns at this point, or we look for lower highs at this point to confirm that retracement phase has ended, after which we can now run our Fibonacci retracement tool right through where the impulse leg ended to look for a golden zone area to take advantage of the next bullish momentum that we're expecting on this one, which will probably fall around this area. Mind you, like I said, the impulse leg is yet to end, and we don't know if that's ended unless we see a lower high at this point. So if we see a lower high, then we should be waiting for price to come back into probably the 50, 61 or 78.6% retracement of that impulse leg to look for trend continuation patterns that supports a move to the upside. So this is my expectation on the UK oil at this point. If you're already in the trade, move your stop loss to $112. And if you're not, we should be patient and let's see how price action plays out in the next couple of hours, or probably during the New York session, after which we can now determine if the impulse leg has ended or not. So let's look at what's happening on GBP New Zealand. So let's scale up to the daily time frame and let's see what's happening here. So on the daily time frame, we have a very simple structure we can play around with here. And what's that? We have an impulse leg. We saw that impulse move that began in February this year, where price moved all the way down into 1.87100. So now, following the impulse leg, we saw price doing what looks more like a retracement phase. as price continue to find higher lows and higher highs at this point. So what we're definitely going to be looking forward to is probably price do a retracement into our golden zone area, after which we see look out for structure that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So how do we take advantage of this trade? Now, drawing our Fibonacci retracement tool, run through that impulse leg, we have price right at 618 area, between 618 and 7 and 50% retracement. We can see that since price got into this 1.96 area, we've been seeing multiple rejections of this area, thereby giving us a clue into the strength of the sellers at this point in the market. So scaling down to a much lower time frame in the form of a 1 hour, or probably let's look at 3 hours, I guess. Let's look at 3 hours. On the 3 hours time frame, we will notice that as soon as price climbed into our 50 and 618% zone area, we had multiple rejections of this area. As you can see, since the beginning of the month, price has been rejecting the zone since the beginning of the month. You can see price was rejecting, 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 and finally rejecting. Then we had a breakdown of that structure. So with this structure around here, I want us to zoom into what has been happening since on the 9th of this month. If we zoom into what has been happening on the 9th of this month, we can see that we have a level around here which could probably serve as our neckline of that reversal structure we saw here on the 1 hour time frame. And the reversal structure looks more like this. We have something like this at this point, and it appears we already have a breakdown of structure here with an engulfing bearish candle. So if you would allow me, let us identify our key level right at this area, which is around 1.9, I think 94. Let's bring out our line chart to be more specific. We have 1.94550. Let's give it a purple. Okay, fine. We have something like this. So this is what we'll be looking at. This is what we'll be looking at going forward. So we want to be looking to take advantage of this trade right below that key level, which is also the neckline at this point. So following the breakdown that happened earlier today, we might be looking forward to probably price come back into this area where we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the downside. So now that though we had a sharp rejection of this area, we had 1, we had 2 before this candle. However, let's scroll down to, let's say, the 15 minutes time frame to see what is happening at this point. So on the 15 minutes time frame, we have something that looks more like this. So for me personally, I want to hope that price will come back into structure where we look for structures that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So that's my expectation on this one. So let us hold on. Don't let us jump into this. Let's hold on and let's see what happens as price action has been monitored. So like I said, let's look forward to price moving up a little bit, probably into a golden zone area of this impulse leg. If this impulse leg is finally confirmed, that is from here to here, then we look within that 78.6% retracement and the 50% retracement of that impulse leg. We have something like this. So we look forward to price coming into that structure around here. Then we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the downside. So where will our take profit target be in the meantime? In the meantime, with an impulse leg identified here, we would like to project that impulse leg into the future. That is, from this area, we want to be looking at an extension into 1.933 area. Allow me to bring out my Fibonacci extension tool and let's run it through that leg and let's see what's happening. So definitely we will be having around 1.933 area as our take profit target. So let's have something like this, and then that's around 130 pips thereabout. We look forward to around 130 pips on this one. So this is our expectation on GBP New Zealand. So let's hope price comes back into that entry point, and then we take advantage of that bearish momentum to the downside. So now moving on, let's look at what's happening on gold. Now, the first thing first we should take into consideration on the daily time frame is the identification of that bullish trend line around here. We saw that bullish trend line as price action continued to respect that trend line since August last year. You can see before we saw that huge expansion that began around February to culminate at $2,070, after which we saw what looks more like a retracement back into that trend line. However, if we zoom closely into what has been happening in the last 2 weeks, we will notice that we had a breakdown of that trend line around here, which makes this area a very, very sensitive area. However, if we look closely into what structure has been doing in the past, that is, we look left, we will notice that price action appears to have come back into the demand zone that has been holding price supported since the late part of last year. So if you allow me, let's identify this area as a strong demand zone that we will use to guide our actions going forward. So with a demand zone around $1,780 area, we want to be of the opinion that price will probably respect this demand zone and look for structures that supports a trend continuation to the upside. So now that we have this scenario, it is also very worthy of me to state here that the possibility of a breakdown of this, since we already have a sign that we already have a sign of a breakdown of that trend line, this might probably be a retest of the trend line, and we might be looking forward to a price going to the downside. But the demand zone at this point is making me look forward to a bullish momentum. So now that this is identified at this point, how do we take advantage of the bullish momentum if it finally happens? So if we scale down to a much lower time frame, let's go to the 4 hours time frame, let's see what is happening on the 4 hours time frame. So on the 4 hours time frame, we saw this move, we saw this bearish move, we saw this bearish, which I call the retracement phase on the daily time frame, and we saw that as soon as price tested $1,785, we begin to see higher lows and higher highs. Now, with this information in hand, this area for me looks more like a reversal pattern, which moves like a double bottom structure rather. So with the double bottom structure identified here, we want to find a key level with a double bottom structure identified around this area. We want to be looking forward to a key level that will guide our actions going into the new week. So now, if we look left, we have a structure here, we have one here, we have one here, and we have another one here. So making that area a very, very significant level to look at. So bringing out my line chart at this point, let's identify our key level, which will also serve as the neckline of the reversal pattern we identified on this 4 hours time frame. So if you allow me, we have something like this, and then we bring back our candle chart. So we have something like this to work with going forward. So where is our key level at now? We have a key level at $1,835. That's we have $1,835. So this is what we have here, and then we have it right at the top here. Okay, I think this is good. This is good. So now, in addition to the key level, we can also identify a bearish trend line when we connect the series of lower highs since mid-April. We have something that looks like this. We have something that looks like this. I want to make this red. So we have something like this, and we saw that the breakout of the key level also shares a confluence with the breakout of that trend line. The trend line that has been holding price action since mid-April was finally, look at it, you can see it was holding the bearish move until we saw the breakout of that structure during the course of last week's trading session as price found higher highs. And at this point, we want to be looking forward to a retest of structure to take advantage of that bullish move. And for me at this point, after this bullish move that broke out of structure, I think we had double retest of structure around here, which pushed price further up. So now that we've missed this, the rejection of this key level, definitely we want to be looking forward to another pattern that will support a trend continuation to the upside. Remember, we have this bullish trend line on the daily time frame. Let me make it a little bit thicker so that we can, okay, it's thick now. So we have this bullish trend line on the 4 hours time frame, and we can see that this bullish trend line was finally broken. You can see finally broken to the upside. So it is possible that we want to be looking forward to a retest of that trend line and look for structure that supports a trend continuation to the upside. So what we should be doing at this point is this. We should hold on and look for structures around a retest of that bullish trend line to take advantage of that bullish move to the upside. So now, scaling down to the 1 hour time frame, we want to look for further confirmations that will guide our actions going forward. So now, going to the 1 hour time frame, I'm bringing out my line chart at this point. There is a bullish trend line that is evolving at this area. So I think we have a major one here. We have a major one here. So let's return this back to. Then we have another one around here. Let me use dash. So this is my perspective on the daily, on the 1 hour time frame. So I want to be seeing price come back into this area where I look for opportunities to push price to the upside. So going into the new week now, we want to be looking forward to a retracement into our key level, or probably the bullish trend line identified on the daily time frame, or the one involving here on the 1 hour time frame to guide our actions going forward. So a quick recap on the gold. We have 3 parameters that will guide our actions going into the new week. The first one is the key level at $1,835. Then we have the bullish trend line that was identified on the daily time frame, and we also have that bullish trend line identified on the 1 hour time frame, which is not yet mature. So going forward, we want to look for price coming into either of these structures to look for opportunities to take advantage of that bullish move if it finally happens. Can, you're welcome to the chat room. Yes, we'll look at US oil. We'll look at US oil after this. So this is my expectation on the gold. So let's quickly look at US oil at this point. Okay. Can, did you take advantage of the US oil last week? The analysis we did on US oil last week, did you take advantage of it? Hello, Can. So, well, on the US oil, we have a very simple setup to work around with here. On the 1 hour time frame, we have an impulse leg that sprang out of that bullish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. That's the impulse leg here. Then we saw what looks like a reversal pattern. That's a double top structure, which incited a trend continuation to the downside. So we saw the signal, we saw a retest of structure, then we saw price move down into that buy opportunity zone we identified during the course of last week trading session. Now we saw that move to the upside at this point. So what do we do now that price has moved out of that buy opportunity zone we identified earlier? So what we want to be looking forward to is this. If you're already in this trade, we want to be moving our stop loss definitely to somewhere. We need to look left, bring out my line chart at this point, and then we look for structures. Okay, we have something around here. So around here will be most appropriate. That's around $109.50 to for our stop loss. So now that we have this, the next thing I observed here on the 1 hour time frame is this bearish trend line. We have one here. Then we have the temporary one around here. Okay. Hold on a second. So so we have this bearish trend line, and we don't know what is going to happen when price comes into this trend line. Will it retest it and come down, or will it break out of it, retest it and go further up? So we have two scenarios here to work with. If price break out of that trend line, then we want to be looking for a retest of the trend line to join the rally to the upside. And if that is the case, we have a take profit target. That is, if we project this impulse leg into the future, we have a take profit target of about allow me to bring out our Fibonacci extension tool to make this more clearer. So we have, okay, we have between 127.2 and 141.4. So I'm not sure if price will get into 122. However, this is just a guide. As soon as we see a breakout of that trend line, we want to see a retest of the trend line. Then if price move in that direction, we need to be moving our stop loss as price action is moving in according to expectations. However, if price does not go as far as breaking out of that trend line, then we will want to be looking for bearish opportunity at this point. Now, if we are looking for bearish opportunity at this point, a breakdown of, you can see that we are in a consolidation phase where though price is rising, but we are price action is caught within a consolidation phase. Excuse me. Excuse me, please. Price is caught within a consolidation phase at this point. It looks more like an ascending channel, and we shall be using this to be our guide. If we have a breakdown of this channel, then a retest into structure with patterns that support a trend continuation will be a good way to sell the US oil with a take profit target right at $105 area. And why is $105 area? We have a previous support level around this area, which you can see. So if that's the case, then we want to be looking forward to a take profit target around that area. So with an entry point right at 110.67, we will be having a position size that looks more like this if we are selling this, and that gives us around 500 pips thereabout. So we have our stop loss right above previous structure, or above previous structure. And this is when, if we see price break down that channel, we see a retest into structure, then we look for patterns that support a trend continuation to the downside. So this is my expectation on the US oil. I hope I have made justification to this for you, Can. So that's that on US oil. So what pair should we be looking at? Hello, good evening. Good evening, Razali. So like a bonus, what pair should we be looking at? Hello, Yipe. We're about 10 minutes to go. What pair do you think we should be looking at? We have looked at GBP New Zealand. We've looked at CHFJPY. We've looked at EURUSD. We looked at UkOil. We looked at gold, and I want us to look at one more pair before we call it a day. Okay. In the absence of none, let's look at what we have here. Let's see if we have opportunities lying out for us on this. So let's quickly look at EURUSD. So on the daily time frame on the EURUSD, the first thing we will observe here is that we are on a bearish momentum since June last year. And as you can see, prices continue to respect this bearish trend line since June last year, which is over a year now. It's close to a year now. And we have something like this to work with. So with the present structure here, there is a possibility that we might be having a bullish momentum going into the new week, in the sense that price might want to do a move into that trend line, where we probably could see a rejection of that trend line that will send price crashing to the downside, or probably we'll be having a breakout of that trend line. Sorry. So sorry for the break in transmission, as I had a network glitch. I'm so sorry for the break in transmission, as I had an internet itch. So now that we are back live on, so like I was saying that there is the expectation that price might actually, we could be having a bullish momentum going into the new week, where we will see a price move into that bearish trend line, after which we might see a trend continue to the downside, or probably we see a breakout of that trend line retested, move to the upside. So what I will be looking forward to is, let us see if we could see a bullish opportunity to take advantage of going into the new week. So let us scale down to a much lower time frame, let's say the 4 hours time frame. And then one thing we observed here is that since price tested 1.03500, we saw price doing a higher high and higher low at this point, giving us the impression that we are on the bullish move at this point, which will probably be a reversal pattern unfolding before our highs. So now, if we pull out our line chart, we want to look for structures around this area to play around with going forward. So I have a bullish trend line identified here, which has been respected since the beginning of the month, and it looks more like this. And we have something like this. Going back to my candle chart, if we look left, we see that since price crashed into this area, we saw price respecting this trend line. And though we had a breakdown of that trend line, which might probably look like a reversal pattern, sorry, like a false breakdown, and then we saw price come back up to that trend line. So going to the new week, this trend line shall be our guide. And if you allow me, let's project this trend line into the future so that we can see what our expectations are going to be like. So at this point, we might be looking forward to price retesting back down into the structure to see before price goes back up. So at this point, it's necessary we identify a key level to work with going forward. So with the key level right at 1.05700, okay, hold on a second, 1.0, Okay, I think 1.06 is 1.60. Okay, 1.06. So we have a key level right here. Key level at 1.0600 going into the new week. So what we're going to be looking out for is this. This key level shall be our guide as we finally see a breakout of that structure. We want to be expecting a retracement into that structure, after which we look for um, opportunities of uptrend continuation. So with an entry point around this area, around this right above this key level, we could be having a take profit target around, let's use 1.09 as our take profit target in the meantime, with our stop loss right below the key level. Yes, but right below the key level at around 50 pips thereabout. Then we aim at around over 250 pips take profit target on the Euro USD. So let's look at what's happening on the 30 minutes time frame if the possibility of a reversal pattern is unfolding before our eyes. So this is what we have here on the 30 minutes time frame. And now we can also identify a bullish trend line that is already evolving at this point. So if we look left, we see something like this. So you can see that this bullish trend line also supports my expectation as we are looking forward to price coming back into that key level, which might also share a confluence with that bullish trend line, after which we'll now be looking for structures that supports a trend continuation to the upside. It could be a double bottom, it could be a head and shoulder, it could be a 1 2 3 pattern. So we'll be looking for structures right above that key level to guide our actions into a bullish momentum. However, if we see a breakdown of that key level, which also shares a complement the breakdown of that trend line, then a retest into that key level could give us confirmations of a trend continuation to the downside. So we have two ways to take advantage of this. And if we are going to be selling, then we should be having our entry point right below that trend line with stop loss right above that key level. And then we have our take profit target around where? Where should our take profit target be? Let's have the previous support level as our take profit target. That's at 1.0. That's 1.04. 1.04 is most appropriate. Since we have a support level, that's around 150 pips thereabout. So we should be looking at this possibility here on this one. So this is my perspective for the Euro USD, and let's see what happens as we anticipate the New York session, and during the course of tomorrow's live studio session, we can actually take a revisit of what we talked about today, and that will guide our action going into the remainder of the new week. So on this note, before I call it a day, let's quickly have a quick summary of what we talked about so far. So here we talked about okay, we've seen Euro CHF, then we talked about the UK oil, and on the UK oil I made mention of is it the first thing I said here was that we should move our stop loss to break to $112 for those who took advantage of this trade during the course of last week's trading session. And then I also said that we might be looking forward to a breakout of that supply zone, which is this blue this blue line is a supply zone that we identified on the daily time frame. And I'm saying that if we have a breakout of that supply zone, then we want to be looking for structures at a retest of that supply zone for a bullish continuation to the upside. And I also made mention that if this impulse leg ends, that is, if we see something like a lower high at this point, then we know that this impulse leg has ended. Then we want to be looking forward to a retracement into the golden zone area, where we now look for opportunities to take advantage of a trend continuation to the upside. So this is my expectation on the UK oil. Then we talked about the US oil. On the US oil, what did we say? The first thing I said on the US oil was that for those who took advantage of that move last week, should move the stop loss to $109.6. Then let's see what happens afterwards. And in addition to that, I also made mention, we identified this bearish trend line, and we were saying that there is a possibility that price will probably come into that trend line and reject it to the downside, or probably break it out. Then if we see a retest of that trend line with structure that supports a trend continuation to the upside, we could add one more position to this trade with a take profit target at around $122 area. However, we made mention of another possibility here on the US oil, where we noticed that price has been caught within a consolidation phase since Friday last week. You can see there is an indecision in the market which is caught within an ascending channel. And I made mention of the possibility that if we see a breakdown of that channel, then we want to be looking at a retest of structure, where we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the downside. And if we are going to be selling this with entry points right at $110.68, we want to be looking at a take profit target at 105 area with about 5,500 pips thereabout, if it turns out to be a selling momentum. So now moving on, we talked about gold, I guess. Yes, we talked about gold. And what did we see on gold? On gold, let me go to the 1 hour time frame. On gold, I'm expecting a bullish momentum on gold. And if you can see what has been happening you saw the last candle, the last 1 hour candle ended with a bearish engulfing candle. And I said I'm expecting price to come back down into the key level that we identified at $1,835, which also shares a confluence with this new evolving trend line, bullish trend line that's identified here. And then we have this bullish trend line here on the daily time frame, which shall also be our guide going into the new week. So we want to see price come into either of this, probably this line, this bullish trend line on the daily time frame, or probably the one we identified here on the 1 hour time frame, which might also share a confluence with that key level, after which we look for structures that supports a trend continuation to the upside. So for the gold, this is what we will be looking forward to on the gold. Now we move on to GBP New Zealand, where we saw a selling opportunity on GBP New Zealand, and we were expecting that considering the reversal pattern we identified earlier, and we saw the breakdown of that neckline of the reversal pattern, that we might be seeing price come back into the golden zone area of that impulse leg, where we look for structure that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So to guide our action, I placed an entry point right at 1.94774, which will become valid after the confirmation in the form of a reversal pattern. Then we look at a take profit target of around 130 pips thereabout on the GBP New Zealand. Now moving on to Euro CHF. I think I shared give me a moment please. On Euro CHF, I told you guys that I'm already in this trade already. I took advantage of this opportunity right above that key level. And why is that? I saw this move to the upside. I saw the breakout of that key level. Then we saw a retest into trend line. Then I took this move to the upside. So, and I said something earlier. We were around here when we took that trade, when I was explaining this pair to you guys. So I said if we see a retest of that entry level, then we should be buying, and I think that has already happened. I don't know if anybody took advantage of that retest on the Euro CHF, where we could be looking forward to another move to the upside. So with a take profit target at 1.04300, which is around 120 pips, and we have our stop loss right below that trend line and key level, which is around 25 pips thereabouts. Let's look at what happens going into the New York session on this one. So we also talked about CHFJPY, and on CHFJPY, I told you that I already take advantage of that move to the upside, and I also try to look for an opportunity where, for those who didn't take this advantage, where we can actually take back that advantage. So I identified this bearish trend line. We saw the breakout of structure around this area. So if we are going to take advantage of that, of the CHFJPY, then we want to be looking forward to price coming back to retest this key level, or probably this trend line. Then we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the upside. For me, I will be adding position at the confirmation of another bullish move. So at this point, I would like to call it a day. It has been fun being with you guys today, and we talked about over 6 to 7 pairs today, and let's see how these pairs run out going into the New York session. And by tomorrow, we shall